So you're a perfectionist. So you find yourself struggling with analysis from paralysis. You haven't started that dream or that desire that you've had days ago, months ago, weeks ago, years ago, because you want to start perfect. You want everything to be perfect before you start. You want to have the perfect tools and everything like that. If you are a perfectionist or you suffer from analysis by paralysis, then we need to talk. Because why are we not pursuing our dreams because we want to be perfect?
We will be perfect in every aspect of the game.
Life is not perfect. The plan is not going to be perfect. You will never have the perfect plan. You will never take the perfect actions to pursue your dream life. Take it from me. I have started a podcast. I have started a business. I have started a YouTube channel. I became an aerialist. I switched careers several thousand times, and none of them had perfect actions. I called myself laying out the perfect plan, but guess what? How do we say it? Life be lifing. Life takes its own course. God has something else in store for you. I thought I was going to be XYZ here, I-10 by 10, but really I went down a completely different path, becoming a nanny, becoming a stretch and mobility specialist. I was a nanny and had my own business at the same time. That wasn't my plan when I left my job. My plan written out on my little to-do list, how I'm going to do it, my paralysis by analysis list, because that I think I was working on that. I was planning out my exit, starting my business for about 6 months, when the action itself only took about 4 or 5 days, right? So my plan, my list, everything I had in place was like, I'm going to have this much money in place. I am going to leave like this. I'm gonna already have everything set up. I'm gonna establish myself on social media first, and then I will launch my business. And by month one, I will have about 30 different clients. It didn't work out that way. First and foremost, the savings that I had actually went to unexpected things in the condo that I was living in. We had a flood out of nowhere, and then I had some car troubles, and I had to buy 2 new tires. Now, it didn't put a heavy dent, but it definitely took away from that perfect plan that I had in place. Well, I realized I did not have about 30 clients in my first month of leaving my business. I had about I might have saw 30 people, but I thought, oh yeah, they're gonna have their first stretch of mobility sessions with me, and then they're gonna buy the highest package and they're gonna be recurring clients. No, I had 5 recurring clients, which is still amazing, but that's not the income that I perfectly planned, right? So I had to stay being a nanny a little bit longer because I had my job working at a stretch studio, but I was always a nanny on the side. So, oh, huh. Now it's looking like I'm a full-time nanny and a full-time entrepreneur. I nanny 5 days a week. I was done by 3 to 5 p.m. depending on the day, but when you're there from about 9 to 5, 9 to 3, 9 to 4, let's call it a full-time job, right? So not only am I now balancing nannying, well, this wasn't part of my perfect plan, but do I regret anything that happened or occurred or any unplanned steps that I took in that journey? No, because guess what? Being a nanny, finding that family, I found lifelong friendship. Like, I found a lifelong family. They have also helped me gain clients so that those 30 clients that I was planning on, actually a good bit of them come from marketing and networking with my nanny family. I got a lot of experience with nannying. I had the autonomy because I was home between 2 to 5 p.m. Rarely was I there at 5, but that's if I chose. Like, I wanted to stay longer, they needed help. But if I'm getting out at 2, well, I actually have some time to build in and go stretch somebody between 3 and 5. Try not to be out in Atlanta traffic, but or even if I have a session at 6, the latest time I'm going to work on someone, guess what? I have time to go home and prep, get ready, get everything I needed. So all of this unplanned stuff, these non-perfect aspects to my plan, these imperfections, right? They end up being blessings. So here you are struggling with analysis by paralysis. Here you are not moving, not taking action because you want to be perfect. And baby, take it from a recovering perfectionist. You can scroll through the podcast and see. We've talked about being a perfectionist a lot because that is something I am so adamant about undoing and helping you undo as well. Because all it does is lead to stagnation, delayed action, or maybe never happened action. I rarely like to say it's too late to do something, but maybe you genuinely are like, oh, it's too late for me to pursue that. Like, I don't know. You moved, then now it's not a thing for you. Whatever the case may be. Was it because you were trying to be a perfectionist? Was it due to your analysis by paralysis? And for those who don't know what analysis by paralysis, sorry, I'm assuming that everybody here has listened to that podcast episode. But let's rewind for a second. Analysis by paralysis is just that over preparation phase where you become paralyzed when it comes time to take action. So if it was a little bar, your preparation, your planning, your researching stage, right, versus your action stage don't match up, right? If anything, they should be 50-50. But really, always, your action phase should always outdo your planning and preparation phase. Why? Because readiness, results, things you're going to learn, success, whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever it is you're striving for in this preparation or research phase will always be guaranteed with action. I can't guarantee that you're going to find success by researching. I can't guarantee that you're going to find results just by planning and putting it on paper. But I can guarantee that you're going to have results with action. Now, let's be honest, if you have fear of failure, then we need to address your perspective. Because let's say starting a podcast, for example, I told you guys back in 2021 I started this podcast in December, but I sat on the couch with my friend who also is a podcaster, and I said I wanted to be a podcast host in August of 2021. And that was me telling her, so that was me saying it out loud. There was some thought of it back in June and July, right? And she would text me once a month and she was like, "Hey, is the podcast up yet?" No, I'm still planning. I'm still researching. Researching what? On top of that, I told you guys I've already had episodes recorded. So what are we researching? How to record more episodes and not post them? So it was December we posted, but August we got the idea. And that research and preparation phase, well, let me tell you how long the prep phase, the essential prep phase, not over prepping, took. I went to Best Buy and got this mic, this very mic I'm still using. That took one day. One day. I actually looked up the mic, like put a kind of category of different mics I was interested in. All of that took one day. From the research of the mic, what's good, what's in my budget, don't want to break the bank starting out, to going to Best Buy, even meeting a professional podcaster, him talking to me, an extra maybe 15-20 minutes in the store, and he pointed me to this mic. One day. I have Amazon Prime. So the mic stand, I actually just bought a new mic stand 3 days ago. So the mic stand that I've used since 2021, that's I can attach to my desk. Well, I had Amazon Prime, so that came within the same day. I ordered it in the morning. It was at my house between 5 and 10 p.m. We're still in that 1 day time frame. Coming up with the name. The very same day I was telling my friend that I want to start a podcast, we were brainstorming. She's like, "This could be a tricky part, but don't overthink it." I said, "I don't know. I don't want to come off as this guru or this specialist or, this big influencer. I just want to tell my story because I feel like the 20s are just, whoa, the 20s can hit you. It really is a taller phase of adulthood." I said, "I just want to speak on my experiences because I realize when I watch YouTube, when I listen to podcasts, I listen to more episodes or podcasts or whatever the case may be. I listen to more content where people are explaining things that they went through, how they overcame it, or even going through. There's a sense of I've been there. Oh, you too?" This sense of I'm not the only person going through this. That doesn't mean it's normal, but you don't feel isolated. It's a little bit of motivation there, right? And then I just gotta say, I just want people to resonate with the things I'm learning, overcoming, and becoming. And we sat, and I said, let it resonate. at this point because I'm not gonna force anything on you. I'm not gonna talk about anything that I haven't experienced. I'm not going to do XYZ elemental P. So bam, let it resonate. Same day on the couch. So now we're at day maybe 2 or 3 because she came over a couple days after the podcast. I bought the things. Well, she while she was there, she told me the hosting site that I use. Hosting site, Buzzsprout. Bam. Sign up. Same day. So let's go down, and I actually filmed the episode that same night. The same night she came over. So we're looking at 4 days of prep. 4 days to get my essentials, my name, my hosting site, my equipment, and even record an episode. But it took me 4 to 5 months to actually put it out there in the name of researching, in the name of planning. So my analysis by paralysis only led to inaction. I thought it was going to lead to conquering this. I thought it was going to lead to success. I thought it was going to lead to greatness. It was only fueling me and helping me. But really, it led to inaction. I mean, I was recording. I mean, cool. It helped me in the sense where I had a bunch of episodes to post and like batch out, but at the same time, you could have done that while things were posted. And so, how many of you are afraid to move, not because it's fear to be seen, but it's just lack of clarity. Because for me, in that time from August to December, it was just lack of clarity on how I can be a podcaster. I am a stretch and mobility specialist, and now I'm throwing another hat on called podcaster. When I look at the podcasts on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and things like that, it doesn't look like me. So there was a lack of clarity that led to stagnation, and then it was covered up with perfectionism and analysis by paralysis. That is the real wool and sheep clothing right there. Because while one person would just say, "Oh, I'm just a perfectionist," and "Oh, I'm just researching," that's just the cop out, right? That might be the side effect. That might be the surface level thing. But the deep and true problem, the real reason you're not starting is lack of clarity in the direction that you're taking. Because 9 times out of 10, if it's just waking up and going to Target, you don't have a problem with that. You don't have to overthink that. You don't overthink your outfit. None of that. It is the new things that we're stepping into. Do you have do you have analysis by paralysis going into work the same job you've been at for a year or two? No, you get up and do what you need to do. Even if you have a meeting that's like, oh, this is new, we're gonna bring something new on. We're transitioning. It's still a familiar place. There's still a sense of clarity in that place. But when you wake up and say you want to be an entrepreneur, when you wake up and say, I want to start a podcast, when you wake up and say, I want to become living proof of a loving God, I want to live in God's purpose, when you wake up and say, I want to be living proof of the life of my dreams, right? Now there's a lack of clarity because you can't see it right now. And think about the Bible verse. Faith is the evidence of things not seen and the substance of things hoped for. I think I flip flopped that. I will put on the screen, right? Hebrews 11:1. It's the not seen that stumps us up. That we end up going down the rabbit hole to overcompensate by being a perfectionist or have that analysis by paralysis. We get stuck in that research phase to overcompensate the lack of clarity. But baby, your clarity will never come without taking steps. And I would like to discuss the power of starting messy. I don't mean just throw it out there, half done, hanging up by a, thread. That's not what I mean. But starting messy from the version of yourself that wants to start as a perfectionist, that wants to start perfect. Starting messy is starting out not knowing it all. Starting messy is starting out with maybe not the highest quality setup. Starting messy is not trying to wait until you could pay for all the extravagant things before you even know if it works, before you even know if this is something that you truly want to do, right? Starting messy is starting before you have all the answers. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you to start messy, and I want to tell you the power in that. One, you pick up gems along the way. Once I had my podcast out, there were so many things that I learned throughout the journey that I would not have learned from my research phase. Just little things like mic specs and working on GarageBand. I didn't wait to pay for there was another platform that you could record on. I forgot the name. But I was like, ooh, it's about like $300 a month, I think. Something. It's pretty pricey. Maybe two. I don't know. But I was like, oh, I'll just wait until I could save up and then I will save up about 5 months of the subscription plan. And then by the fifth month, it'll my podcast will be perfect and I will be monetized or my income for my business will be a little bit better. And then I could just pay it with no problem. Yeah, no. I started messy with GarageBand. And in case you're wondering, I'm still using GarageBand. It is a free app. I am recording on a free app, right? But instead of having the extravagant and intricate, I started messy, and then along the way, I learned how to tweak things on GarageBand. So, like the certain sounds and volumes and the fade ins and fade outs, editing things like that. I wasn't going to learn that in my research phase because I wasn't even trying to start messy. I wanted to start as perfect. I wanted to start with the software that kind of already does all that stuff for you. But now, if I, let's just say I sound really nasal, which I really don't edit that stuff out, but I can if I want to. If I sound really nasal, like I'm recovering from a cold or something like that, no problem. We can fix that on GarageBand. I learned gems along the way. Now I have a video version of the podcast, and trust me, there was analysis by paralysis by there. Not as much as one to be perfect, but I was like, it doesn't make sense. I already have 80 audio episodes. Why would I, just jump up and start doing the rest of them video and audio? Overthinking that in that direction. But now I've learned editing techniques for video and audio. I've learned camera specs. I got a camera now because I'm doing audio. I've learned great camera specs. There are so many gems that I picked up along the way. There are things I picked up there are things I picked up along the way by interacting with my listeners. We have family over here, okay? So you guys are giving me tips and telling me how the tips help. I wouldn't have got that in the research phase because I don't have content out there for anyone to interact with. So there's so much power in starting messy, and that was one of them. Two, you gain experience. We piggyback off of that. Why? Because now I can look at something and say, "Oh, I can work on this really quick." If someone in my family has a podcast, I can give them some tips and some pointers. Not as a professional, but someone with reps. Someone with reps can help versus someone who just stayed in the books and never did anything. And that was something I actually learned in the body industry. I made straight A's. Like I was on it. I was always studying. I was always had a study room booked in the library. Like I had everyone's student number so that I can book the study room for the whole year. Like all my friends, they already knew. They were like, Jalen, why did it say I had the study room booked for all the month of April? Because it won't let me book outside a month long. So I need all of y'all's. I was studying, right? I was buying body paint to like paint the muscle organ insertions. I was in it, right? But there was a different level of knowledge that came when I got thrown into my internships, when I got thrown into the work world, when I started my business. Yes, that book stuff is great. Have it, have the knowledge, but that is only the foundation. The building doesn't start being built until you have the reps. So for me, with the podcast, I was Googling certain things like mic specs and things like that, and good cues and good, how to talk for a podcast, right? But I just realized the experience was the best thing. I listened to some of my older videos and I'm like, hey, the maybe I need to slow down my talking here, or hey, maybe I realize, yes, I do talk to you guys like I talk to my friends, but hey, maybe, change up the dialect just a little bit, right? Things like that, right? It's just from experience. And so when I gained experience, it was also the feedback that I can get, real world feedback. And that was another thing. So experience comes from obviously the reps, but it also comes from the feedback. One thing in your research phase and your perfectionist phase, you can't get feedback because you're not putting anything out there. Versus when I put something out there, you get real life feedback. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not, but then you know what's working. You can't research your way into know what's working for 83 episodes of a podcast and never post anything. You can't. It's literally impossible. I would get feedback from family and friends, and then over time, as the podcast got bigger, more people would reach out to me and DM me and say, "Hey, this episode really helped here. Hey, can we pinpoint if you got time? Can we make an episode to pinpoint on this episode? Hey, this really resonates with me." And so when I started getting that experience, it really did help undo that analysis by paralysis mindset. Like I said, I'm still working at it, but it helped chip away at it. Like, you're chipping away at a wall. It had a dent, a very big dent in it, because I knew I could not get that feedback from any forum, YouTube video, Google, whatever the case may be. Whatever you're using to search, you cannot get that real world feedback. And even feedback like, "Hey, you talk a little fast in the podcast." Cool. Google wasn't going to tell me that because Google's not listening to my podcast because I'm not posting my content. And also not listening to my podcast. you know? So that was things that I realized. Like, if I didn't start messy, I wouldn't have had the experience in that real life feedback to make those adjustments along the way, to continue making these podcast episodes and eventually now have a video aspect of the podcast. And another, what we're going to segue right into it because I said it, but you build reps. You build reps. Why is building reps important? Because it's like anything else, confidence is a skill. So when you build those reps, you get the confidence in the unknown. You get the confidence in the haziness of clarity. Because if we're going back to what we said, it's usually lack of clarity that has you trying to overcompensate with that analysis by paralysis or that perfectionist mindset, right? And so for me, I started building reps and I had the confidence to put that episode out there. Maybe I'm not 100% on this topic because I'm still going on it. Like, I'm still going through it. It's still something I'm resonating with, but I'm confident enough to talk about it because I don't want to just meet you guys when I'm perfected and when I've overcome it. I don't want to just meet you there. I want to meet you guys in the journey. I think there's a lot of people and it helps people. It helps us in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of people who mentor from the top or help you from the top or give that advice from the top. I'm taking y'all with me through the middle, okay? So there were episodes where I was a little more reluctant because I was like, uh, I'm still overcoming this. Like, I still fall short in this area. But over time, like I said, 83, I think I'm on 90 something episodes, but so many episodes later, there was a confidence there. There was a confidence that could not be shaken because of lack of clarity, because of the unknown or how someone's going to perceive this, right? And so I'm over here building the reps of confidence. And it doesn't, this is just me talking about my podcast, but it bled into so many other ways. That to start Ariel, that to keep going in my business, that to post content for my business, that to show up more authentically as myself each and every day because I decided to start building reps because I decided I don't want to show up only as perfect because then guess what? It's all we're talking about a domino effect here. Maybe you start off as a perfectionist, maybe you started off with analysis by paralysis, and then you only show up as perfect. You only show up when you're on presentation mode. You only show up with your false representative if you know the episode, right? You only show up with your false representative, and then you accumulate a community of people who only resonate with this pseudo version of yourself, right? Now you're in your people pleasing phase. Now you're a people pleaser and a perfectionist. You just add them on, right? And now you just feel so trapped and confined. And that same domino effect that I just explained is the one that I went through and that I am working very diligently to undo because I for a very long time I only showed up as Little Miss Perfect. For a very long time I held off so many dreams because I wanted to be perfect when I came out there. I wanted the perfect setup, I wanted the perfect equipment, I wanted the perfect aesthetic, I wanted the perfect this. I wanted to be perfect. And then over time, people only resonate with that version of me, and it got exhausting and draining. And then I went through a year of silence and isolation. And then I said, nah, yeah, I'm gonna bloom as a flower that God has created me to be and not resonate with what anyone wants me to be, right? But a lot of this started from my need to be perfect, my need to start perfect, my making analysis by paralysis my norm, my default. And so I'm trying to stop you. Maybe you're already in the mix of it or before you even started. 2025 is coming up. That's going to be your year. You make your resolutions. You're going to do XYZ. There's a list of things you're going to accomplish. And what I don't want you to do is meet that list with the need to be perfect. They're not going to go. They're going to be oil and water, baby. Mm-mm. Because then we're going to hit Q3, Q4, and you're like, oh, I just haven't started. I just don't know why. Like, nothing, like, it just hasn't been the right time. It will never be the right time. Never. I was actually looking up the right time to start a podcast during that time. I looked up the right time to start a YouTube channel when I started this one. There is no right time. Google's going to give you one, but maybe there is no right time. There is no right time. Lastly, it lessens your load. Absolutely lessens your load. Why? The mental load of analysis by paralysis is heavy. The pressure is getting worse. Be. Okay, because I'm always overthinking. I'm always trying to be perfect. I'm always trying to think of every scenario before they happen. And guess what? It doesn't work like that. You would never think of every scenario. I thought about Abbott Elementary. Why did I just blank on that teacher's name? But I know his name in real life. Tyler James Williams, his character. I'm so mad I forgot his name just now. But if you see his transition from the season, he was very perfect. He was like, oh, we're on this tight schedule, this, that, and the other. And the teachers would tell him, you are a teacher. Children are not predictable. Children are not going to abide by your year-long schedule. And that's how we treat our life. That's how we treat our goals. And they are like children. They're very young. They're very starting out. They're in the unknown. They're in that little seedling phase, your goals and your dreams, and they're going to be unpredictable. They're going to take turn left, turn right, ups and downs. And if you have them in such a rigid box that they can't grow in, well, one, it sucks the creativity out of this. I used the example last time we talked about this. The Halloween Town movies. I think it's Calibur's Revenge. I don't know. Whichever one where all like the people were turning gray and they were just like so mundane and boring and I don't know. Everything's boring. I'm gonna have fun by sorting my socks. That's how it felt when I was going through paralysis by analysis because what was supposed to be just a fun time of sharing my life experiences, things, hope it resonates with you, became very strategic and became very robotic and it didn't feel like me. Oh, I can't talk about anime. Anime is not perfect. Oh, I can't talk about Sims. This is serious. Um, this is not serious. And some of my best episodes are when I give life examples about Sims, about anime, about things I like to do, right? Just being myself. So it takes the weight off one of that mental pressure of always overthinking, of always trying to be perfect. It takes the weight off of that restriction and that ball and chain that you put on your creativity and truly your just authentic self. And it gives you the freedom from myths, freedom of the myth of I have to be perfect to be seen, that someone will only resonate with my perfect version of myself, which doesn't exist. So it's a fraudulent representative, but that's neither here or there. All these things, right? And so it really lightens a load because I was laying in bed at night like, oh, what if this happens? Or what if this, okay, let me think of this plan and let me think of a step for this in case this happens and this, that. I was making up scenarios to make up more things to fix. I was researching random things that never pertain to this podcast, all of these things, right? And one thing I've learned that if you need to research as you go. Research when a problem arises. So when someone reached out to me for the first time to do a brand deal with the podcast, or not the podcast, to do a brand deal with my Instagram, with my content, guess what? I researched as I went. Versus before I even started posting content or creating that page, I was like, hmm, let me research what happens if I get a brand deal. Baby, get your first follower first. Post your first video first. Post your first reel first before you start just jumping to step W and you don't even know if that's the direction you want to take, right? And I also want to hone in on the mistakes. Mistakes will be made whether you plan them or not. They will be made. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you there won't be mistakes. That would be a lie. That would just be sending you into the wilderness with a false hope, right? But what I am gonna tell you is that you can change your perspective in them. There have been mistakes I made with the podcast. My posting schedule has changed several different times, and I could beat myself up and be like, "Oh my God, this is bad," and now it's this and now it's that. Yeah, no, it's not that serious. It's not that serious, and I think of it as lessons and building blocks, more reps, because I know this works better for me, and I know this doesn't work. Why do I know it doesn't work? Because I learned it when I tried it and it wasn't as successful. So you have to change your mindsets towards failure. You can't have a fear of it because failing is to me failing only happens when you quit, but the hiccups and the bumps in the roads, the lessons that you learn, is to me is just data. It is just data. Okay, this didn't work, put this in the system and we know that's not working. Let's not go back down that rabbit hole, or if we are, let's try this or let's revamp that. That's literally all it is. When products and things go through their testing phase before they launch it into the market, they don't, the first time the experiment or the test works, I mean the first time it doesn't work, or the case doesn't work, they don't say, okay, scrap the whole $1 billion project, this is dumb, no more makeup for you, no more skincare. No, they say test one, rejected, not working, and they figure out why, and then they make the tweaks, and then they go to test two, and then we get the skincare that we need today. Why can't that be the same thing for your goals and your dreams? Just like the saying, and one thing I always think about is one, every no is not rejection, it's redirection. So you have to take your mishaps, your missteps, your lessons, you have to take it as redirection. You have to take it as, okay, there's another plan out there for me. There's another, let's pivot. Let's change this. Let's make adjustments. And one thing about it with paralysis by analysis, I realized there was a lack of adaptability and flexibility in my mindset in my life. Your girl was flexible. She's a stretch and mobility specialist, but mentally I was not. Emotionally I was not. I was so stuck on this perfect plan I curated in my life, but when it came to lessons, then all things came crashing down because I was so rigid. So this is why it's always going to harm you. The cons will always outweigh the benefits of being perfect, of over planning, of analysis by paralysis, right? Think about Johnson's family reunion. If Buddy, I just blanked on his name, but what was his name? Steve? His name was not Steve. The husband, all right, played by Cedric the Entertainer. Obviously, I know their actual names, but if the father wasn't so I-10, they wouldn't have ran into so many of the mishaps that they did, because he was trying to beat the GPS system and all these things, right? He ended up cutting off that truck that led them to go down the hill, which led them into car troubles, which led them to take more pit stops, because he was so rigid and he couldn't be adaptable or flexible with the schedule. And that's how we treat our goals. And baby, it's a problem. Because guess what? Like I said a couple episodes ago, your self improvement journey, you becoming living proof, you achieving that goal, you starting that business, it is not an event, it's a journey. And guess what? A journey requires you to be flexible. Just as windy and curvy as the road and the path is going to be that you walk on, that's how windy and curvy your mental state has to be. You have to have adaptability. You have to have a moment for God to say, I understand this was what you had in mind, but this is what I have in store for you. And let me tell you something following that. 9 times, no, no, let me not lie. 10 times out of 10, every time I've had a plan and God has redirected me, I came out with more. It came out better. I was protected from foolishness. So stop trying to stay so rigid and true to your perfect goal. Give space for God to take the reins. Give space for God to give you some lessons and blessings along the way. Give space for redirection and give space to be flexible and adaptable, right? And lastly, I think this is obvious, but your dreams are delayed. Your dreams and your goals are delayed. It took me thinking about the people I'm not helping by over planning to actually start moving. I wouldn't have met a good bit of you guys if I was still overthinking and suffering from analysis by paralysis, making that my default and my norm. I had to think about the people waiting to hear my content, whether they knew it or I knew it, whoever knew it, right? Because I had someone I knew them before, but not in the aspect of a podcaster, and they would DM me and they're like, this is what I needed. This is uplifting, and I'm like, what? I think about how I have a favorite YouTuber, and I'm very grateful to watch her page. It's not really self improvement. It's just her living abroad and just accomplishing goals that she set her mind to. Right? It gives me motivation through that. Right? Well, I think about it like this. I just started watching her roughly 7, 8 months ago. I didn't know I needed that second win of seeing this woman. Her name's Sunday Love. Seeing Sunday one move abroad, conquer that. She did it alone. She started her own business abroad. She bought a home and renovated abroad. She's done so many things. She's been in so many different industries. She's pivoted so many times, and she always says, she goes, I'm gonna put if I put my mind to it, I can do it. There's nothing stopping me. I didn't know that was content that I needed that actually gave me a little second win to start YouTube. So, and that's how I thought about it myself. I'm like, there are people out there who don't know they need my content. I don't know they need my content, but there's a story that I'm telling that someone's going to resonate with. And you're doing them a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice because you're not building the reps and you just allow yourself to stay in that perfectionist mindset. Everyone's getting a disservice here because you're choosing to be perfect. You're choosing to rub away your imperfections before you start the goal. So therefore you never move. It always leads to inaction, right? And it damages your self-worth because you're feeding yourself a myth and a lie. Like I said, you're staying in that mindset of perfectionism. You're staying in that mindset of being perfect. You're staying in that mindset that analysis by paralysis is actually benefiting you. And all it does is dwindle away and chip away. Because like I said, my domino effect was I felt like I always had to be perfect. Analysis by paralysis was my default. Therefore, over time, I felt like I was only accepted and wanted and built a community around that perfected pseudo version of myself. And it really did chip away at my confidence, my self worth. It chipped away at everything. My self worth became something outside of me. It became everything that I accomplished, everything that I put out. That was my self worth. And all of this, I can move backwards, just taking the steps backwards and say, it started with my need to be perfect. It started with my need to only show up as perfect. It started with my need to overanalyze things so that I can dot all my I's, cross my T's, and put the little squiggly line on the Z, right? And so these are all the things that I have learned from my journey, and I'm still working on it with perfectionism and analysis by paralysis. This is why I'm telling you to start messy. This is why I'm telling you to start outside of your default mindset so that you can actually make the steps, so that you can build the reps, that you can get some experience, that you can pick up little gems and nuggets along the way, so that you can have time for your creativity, so you can build mental skills of creativity, so you can build the mental skill of confidence. You can build faith. Faith, baby, is like a muscle. You have to work on it. You don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm faithful." Maybe you do as a kid, but then over time it gets chipped away. You don't wake up and say, "Oh, I'm full of faith. I'm gonna take that leap." No, unfortunately, no. You have to build at it. You have to work at it, right? You build the skill of being flexible. I mean, mentally, and also physically if you want to. Go ahead, start. This is my pun for this is my little plug-in for stretch and mobility. If you are suffering from stiffness and lack of range of motion, maybe you should try stretch and mobility. All right, right? But this is your chance to actually start messy and see the beauty in it. There's so much beauty in starting raw, starting not knowing everything, because then also you get to look back and see what you've learned along the way. You get to see your growth. Like you rob yourself of the journey of growth. You rob yourself in the journey of learning because you want to be perfect. And you're never going to learn everything behind that computer screen. Put the book down, okay? I went through a heavy phase of buying every book possible about everything I wanted to do, and the book only gave me about 30% of the journey. All right, guys, as always, I pray one thing from this episode resonates with you. Until next time, you have a wonderful, wonderful week. All right, and next episode, we're picking up right back. We're picking up right here with the tips to start messy. How we're gonna overcome this. How we gonna work at this. We in this together. All right, guys, have a wonderful week. Talk to y'all later.